Ceann Comhairle. Minister, I think we have to be honest. The only reason why we're discussing this issue at all is that a number of us on the independent benches refused to sign what you had hoped would be a cross-party motion. And the reason why we objected and tabled an amendment was because of, in my opinion, the absolutely unprecedented, partisan and one-sided nature of the motion that you were putting forward before this House, and the total failure to recognise that the recent conflict and instability in the Ukraine has in its origins, to a large part, the external struggle to dominate that country. And that is not just being fought by the Russians, but also by the US and the EU. Now, you called this morning the EU's actions as good faith, but I think we have to be clear here. There has been a conscious strategy on behalf of the EU and the US to openly sponsor the protest movements against Yanukovych, to pump in billions to destabilise that area, not because Yanukovych was corrupt, which absolutely, undoubtedly he was, but to further the economic interests of the US and the EU, because the replacement of Yanukovych is even more corrupt. And it was the pushing of this all-or-nothing EU agreement which would have excluded any economic association with Russia, which was a contributing factor to the conflict. Now, I think it's incredibly ironic that the motion made no mention of the role of NATO, which has been key in this situation. And contrary to the claims of the US and its allies, NATO has been relentlessly expanding up to the Russian borders, taking in many countries from the former Warsaw Pact and indeed the former Soviet Republic. And in effect, what is happening is the build-up of an anti-Russian military alliance across Europe. Little wonder the Russians would be worried, and I think The Guardian described it quite well as a desire really of the Pentagon to have the US Navy replace the Russian Black Sea Fleet in the Crimean ports. The majority of people in the Ukraine are against NATO membership. The oligarchs have a different view. Yanukovych actually articulated that he was against it as well. The paw prints of NATO haven't been mentioned in this. I think the fact that a fascistic and anti-Semitic elements are in the new government hasn't been mentioned either. Frighteningly, you told us you fully support that government. In terms of the referendum, look, it is quite clear that that referendum was held in very poor conditions, but it is also clear that the majority of people living in Crimea do support the idea of the alliance with Russia, and a key part of that is the reactionary nature of the regime in Kiev, which offers no way out on the policies of economic austerity. The problems in this area will be solved not by Moscow, not by Washington or Brussels, but by the people in the region themselves.